Hello and welcome to this video where I'm going to show you 25 excellent mods that's going to improve and enhance the realism of Farming Simulator 19. So in this video, like I said, there's going to be 25. Some of them are really small that I'm not going to be able to show you much detail to just because they are quite small, but there's going to be others that are quite sophisticated and definitely game-changing mods that I will try and to go into some detail. I do want to kind of keep the video slightly short, but I'll have all the links in the description to every single mod, and I'll also explain what the gist of the mod is, what it does, so you at least can get an idea if it's for you. So the first mod that I'm going to talk about is a mod called Increased Fuel Consumption. So I can't really show you much of this, but what I'll do is I'll go into the tractor. If you can just see here, this is the litre in every hour that obviously the tractor is going to be using. So what it's going to do, this mod, is it's going to increase the amount of fuel that's being consumed, and it's dependent on two settings. So I always use this mod. I have it on pretty much every playthrough that I do because I find that the standard vanilla game, you hardly ever fuel up. It's very rare and it really does need to be increased to be more realistic. So by having this mod, I've noticed that you do fuel up quite a bit more and it does make a difference, and it's definitely something that I can now probably not have in game. So I'll just quickly explain in detail what kind of things it changes, the stats of it basically. So when you go into your game settings and you've got your real-time, economical difficulty, all that kind of stuff, you'll have one that says fuel usage. There's usually default and low. So with this mod, what happens is with default, it increases the fuel consumption by 300%, whereas when you put it on low, it increases it by 200%. So it still will increase it, but if you think it's too fast, then put it down to low and it'll only increase it to 200%. Right, so the next mod is another one that's going to enhance the realism on machinery or tractors. There's quite a few of them, and I've tried to put them in an order where the first probably maybe up to 13, I'd say the first 13 mods are going to be around equipment or tractors, basically anything that's a machine that you're running. It does enhance it a lot. So the second one that I'm going to be talking about is this DEF, which is basically AdBlue. So most tractors, if they're maybe slightly modern, not really old vintage tractors, won't have this. But again, if you look down here, you'll see this little bar here, and this is telling me the level of AdBlue that's in the tank. So what AdBlue basically does is it makes the engine less harmful for the environment. Also, as well, I think it does make the tractor slightly more economical, so more cost efficient. In real life, obviously, when a lot of tractors do add this AdBlue, so what it does is obviously add a couple of filling stations to the placeables, so you can put these down like I have done here, and then you can obviously fill up when your tractor needs it, which unfortunately mine doesn't. But it gives you another thing that you're going to have to keep an eye out for, which is your AdBlue and then also your fuel. A lot of tractors, you'll see these blue caps. They are for the AdBlue. So your fuel one's somewhere else on this. I don't know. I can't exactly see it. I think it's there. That's the fuel, maybe. It looks like it. And then the blue one there is the AdBlue. So a lot of modern tractors do have these. So I definitely advise getting this as well because it gives you another aspect of gameplay, basically another aspect of realism, and it definitely does make a difference. Right, so the next mod I'm going to talk about is another fueling mod that I do actually really like. It's only small, it only changes very small detail of the game, but you do notice it, especially when you've got the mod, which is basically a mod called Slower Refueling. So let's say that this tractor all of a sudden has a fuel leak right outside where we fill up the tank, which I'll do now. So obviously this is full, but if I just quickly go and empty this out of fuel, oh, the engine's cut out. We need some fuel. So normally you would obviously fill up your tank. So as you can see now in the bottom right corner, the fuel is going up very slowly, more realistically. Obviously putting fuel into a tank, especially out of these like diesel tanks that they have on farms, they're not that powerful. The flow rate of them are more realistically, some of them are gravity fed. So what this does, especially if you've got a big tractor like this T7 New Holland, this is going to have a big tank, and this is going to take a while to fill up. So as you can see in as well in the top right, the fuel itself is the money itself, sorry, is going down quite slow, but the fuel here is going up. So this is more realistic. Like I said, you don't really notice it too much, but I like it because if I'm trying to play a really realistic gameplay, I can put my tractor here, leave it fueling up, and walk away. Like I probably would do, because usually the nozzles on the fuel tank would basically have this kind of latch on. As you know, when it fills up, it cuts out. So yeah, usually takes a little bit of time, especially if you're empty, but it just means it's more realistic, and I do like this feature a lot. Right, so while we're on the subject of tractors and equipment, this mod is definitely something that you should be having if you want to be a bit more accurate. It does enhance the realism of tractors, but it also makes it slightly a little bit more difficult. I don't use this mod that much in Let's Plays, and sometimes not in my role play as well, but I do have a couple of save games that I don't do videos on. They're a bit more laid back, that I do use it on, because I don't have to worry if it becomes a little bit more difficult, and obviously the gameplay becomes longer because of that. So this mod's called Enhanced Vehicle, and what it basically does is it just gives you more control over the vehicle itself. It gives you a bit more options to play with, and it does make it feel more realistic. So I'll just quickly talk you through the hood down here. So what it does is obviously it puts this front diff there, rear diff and axle, a few bits and bobs like the tonnage that you obviously got behind you, the temperature of the engine, RPM down here, the fuel rate, and I think this is the tractor percentage of pull. I think it is. I'm not entirely sure on that, I'll be honest. Probably someone in the comments can correct me and tell me exactly what that is. But it's definitely part of the Enhanced Vehicle mod itself. So what I mainly use this mod for is just to have control of the front diff lock, sorry, and the rear diff lock, and also change it to two-wheel drive. I don't do it often. I usually just keep it on diff lock, to be honest, so I don't mess about with it too much. But if you press the number 7 on the keypad, you'll notice that just down at the bottom there now, the front axle there that goes across, that's gone red, so that's telling me that it's not locked anymore. So, and then if I press the number 8 keypad, now the rear axle is not locked anymore, and if you press the number 9, it's now just two-wheel drive. So you do have a little bit more options there to play with. There's also different things as well, like reverse gear, like I said about the drive modes, rear hydraulic and equipment, so you can mess about with that. Also it has a parking brake that you can put on as well. But to go into more detail on this, I'd advise just looking at the link that I've put in the description, going onto the mod itself, looking at all the controls, and just seeing if it suits you, if you wanted to add it into your game. Okay, so the 5th mod, again, we're still on the same subject as equipment, tractors, vehicles mainly. This mod is called Less Engine Brake Force, and what it does is reduce the engine brake force by 20% of the original value. So right now you probably can't notice it, but I have let off my acceleration and now I'm coasting. In the original vanilla game, without this on, it would slow it down really quick and you couldn't coast. So it does actually make it more realistic, because obviously the tractor itself, the engine wouldn't slow it down quite as quick as what it does in the vanilla game, which I do like, because it means if you're hitting a hill like this, I am actually going to speed up a little bit. He says, there you go, 12 miles an hour, but eventually it will slow itself down. And it's really cool, honestly. It makes a difference to the gameplay. You do notice it if you've been playing like FS now for a few years, like I have, and then all of a sudden you switch over and you have this. You'll notice that it feels strange. It feels like you're just not used to it, because you expect the tractor to slow down. So if you're going to use it, make sure you don't hit any fences or anything like that, because you're going to pretty much feel the difference straight away, especially on corners like that. So remember, your brake's going to probably come in use a little bit more now, but it is realistic, and it is just a nice little feature to have, a nice little change. Right, number 6 on my list is a mod called Guided Steering, which is basically GPS for the tractors, and also it's really good if you've got a good sized field and that you're doing like cultivating, even harvesting, ploughing, anything that means that you're going to have to pretty much go up and do a lot of rows, and it keeps you right on path, and you won't be overlapping at all, and it just makes it more efficient. It's nice to use, especially if you've got a sim dashboard in conjunction with this. A really good video by the Farm Sim guy. I'll put a link in the description to that for that. He explains sim dashboard and what it offers, but it does make a difference if you've got that with you as well whilst using GPS. So I'll quickly just show you what I mean and what it does. It's only going to be brief. Like I said, a lot of the details you'll find by either reading through the mod description or also some of the tips. There'll be some actual YouTube videos, full YouTube videos on how to use guidance steering in all its detail, and obviously you can become a pro at it. I think the Farm Sim guy also does some videos on some tutorial videos on guidance steering, so go and check them out if you want to learn even more. But I'm just going to give you a little understanding of what it does and what it offers. So now I'm in the tractor. I'll quickly just show you the menu in the HUD there. Just you can see these three white icons are the GPS. This is telling you if the GPS is on or off, which is off right now. This is telling you what row number you're on, and this bottom one here is telling you if you've turned the guidance steering on. So if GPS is telling the steering wheel that you want to keep it in a straight line. So there is 3 different modes there. Right, so I'm going to be using the Sim dashboard page that I've got in front of me, because I prefer to use that on the tablet that I've got. It's a lot more interactive, a lot easier to use as well. But if you haven't got that and you're going to be using just your normal keyboard, then what you do is you press left Control and S and it bring up the guidance steering menu, and everything that I do now you can obviously do in the menu. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn my GPS on. In the bottom right there you can see that this is now turned green, which means that it's on. I need to tell it automatically what piece of kit that I've got on the back and the width of it, so it can obviously know what kind of row size we're going to be doing. So I'll quickly do that. Right, so that's that done. Now I need to set an A line, which I have done already, hence why it's telling me that message. So you can see it's just there underneath. You see that little green A. So now we need to drive in a straight line. You'll see a line start appearing, and when you've driven a fair distance, probably about that's perfect, you can then set your B line, and you can see the lines come up in front of me. So now it knows the path that I want to take. It's to the right width. So for example, I could now drop it. I could put it on auto drive or cruise control, and as long as I press the guidance, which now I've done, it'll bring me back into position. And if I quickly just go in here so we can see it better, if you look just where the mouse is now, the steering wheel's turned green, which basically means that guidance steering is enabled, and that's pretty much what you do. Now the way it works as well, when I get near to the end of this row, to the end of the field, it'll give you a little bleep for a reminder. As soon as you turn the guidance steering wheel there that's green will turn white, and you're taking it out of control. So then what you do, you'll see the line shift to the direction that you're driving. You carry on onto the next row that you want to do, obviously drive to it, press guidance steering, and again it'll keep you on the right path. It's really cool, really nice feature. Definitely something if you start using as well, you'll pretty much be stuck with, because you kind of can't go back unless you're doing a small field. I don't really use GPS unless I've got a small field. Also, I should mention that it costs 15,000 in-game to obviously buy this on a tractor. So every time you buy a tractor, you'll have the option for guidance steering GPS to have it inside the cab, or on the tractor you have to pay 15,000 for that. So as you can see, I got the beep reminder at the end. So I stopped, I'll lift up my tool and I'll turn, which I did. So now the steering wheel's gone white, and you can see these lines are appearing saying what road you want to go. And also in the bottom on the right hand side of the screen at the bottom, you'll see that it's showing me row 6. The next one will be row 7. So let's say we want to do row 9, which will be this one. We can go to it, try and match up to the white line, set it going, press guidance again, and as you can see, dead simple, nicely doing this row now. So I think it's definitely worth having if you want to obviously play realistic. In a lot of tractors obviously have GPS in, especially the bigger tractors. So yeah, it's definitely worth having. Nice feature, so go check it out, see what you think of it. Right, so number 7 on the list is a mod that's a GlobalCompany add-on, so you will need GlobalCompany first for this to work. If you've got GlobalCompany, and obviously just download this mod, activate it as you normally would any mod, and it'll work. And it's basically a mod called DisableTurnOffMotor. So I don't know if you've noticed, but in Farming Simulator, if you get out your tractor and you leave it running, and you kind of like move around in a short area, it won't go off. But if I travel to a further distance, let's say I kind of jump all the way to this little farm here, that tractor should be still running technically, because nothing's changed. I've left the engine on. Yes, I've kind of teleported, which is not realistic, but let's say I drove all this way to drop something off, and then I was going to drive all the way back. That tractor should still be on. There's no reason why it shouldn't be, because I turned the engine on and I forgot to turn it off. So it should still be on. So if I jump back now, the tractor engine is still going. So yeah, just a small little feature again, but obviously the more these kind of mods you pile up and add on, the more realistic the whole game eventually feels, and the better it becomes. Right, so the next on my list is a combination of two mods. These two mods are basically going to change the way the tractor looks, so the dirt level. The first one's called Real Dirt Color, and the next one's called Real Dirt Fix. So what it does is, if you're driving through a field like this, ploughed, for example, you can notice that the tractor itself starts getting dirty around the tyres. The colour itself is like a muddy colour. This changes basically 10 colour variations, including brown dirt, brown mud, red mud, grass, chaff, manure, slurry, lime and snow. What it also does with the fix as well, it means that if I drive onto the road or something else, it won't instantly clean off my tyres, for example. If you didn't have the fix version of it as well on top of this, and when you drove onto the road or something, it just completely disappears, and it kind of just, yeah, it doesn't look as good. So you definitely need both types. So what I'll quickly do is I'll just run over this pile of grass, and you should start seeing quickly that the front tyre now is brown because it's gone back on the dirt, and the green tyre in the back because I'm in the grass. So if we do the same for the snow, you can see it starts going a whiter colour to the snow, and then we go back to the dirt on the brown. So it definitely adds to the realism, because obviously tractors get dirty, that's part and parcel of farming. So you definitely need something that shows that. Right, so we'll just quickly go through this hedge and go on the road. Because we're not going over any of them 10 colours that are added into the Real Dirt mod, it will stay the colour that it was last, which is what the fix basically does. So again, another mod that you definitely need to add to your list of realistic mods, and you've probably got it already, but if you haven't, at least you now know what it is, because it is pretty cool. Right, so the next mod that I'm going to show you is called Vehicle Maintenance. It's not that old, it's pretty recent to be honest, but it's definitely added something unique, and something that just makes a little bit of difference to the gameplay, and also improves the way you're pretty much looking after your tractors. So what it does is it adds a system in place where after a certain amount of time, working hours in the tractor, or it also depends on the season length you've got, you basically need to repair your tractor, or it needs a service. And what you'll start noticing, if it says maintenance required, you can also see the time that it's telling you how many hours are left, but when it says maintenance required, you'll start noticing some things with your tractor. So when you start the engine, it may misfire or die. If the engine's load is too high as well, it will die. I've noticed also that it becomes sluggish when you start off. You definitely notice a difference. What you need to do is basically go into the shop itself, go into the pallets section. You'll see this in there for £500. You'll buy that, bring it back to your farm, and then every time your tractor needs a service, you're going to have to drive up to this, press Control and M, and then you can service your tractor. However, when you do that, your engine will cut off. You won't be able to use the tractor for a little bit because obviously it's having its service done. I'll quickly just show you what I mean. So now I'm in the tractor. This case is obviously due for a service. It's done 99,000, nearly 100,000 hours. So obviously it's well overdue for a service at that time. As you can see as well on the top left in the F1 menu, it says maintenance required. If I try and start the engine, it does start, but you heard it do its little take. Sometimes it doesn't start at all. You'll hear it randomly at times where it'll start, but it's definitely struggling. If I also drive off, it's quite sluggish to start with, so it's definitely obviously needs a good service. So if I drive up to this, press Control M, the tractor cuts off. It tells you that you've got 60 minutes to wait, and then your tractor will be fully serviced and the timer will reset. So what I'll do is I'll speed up time and we can actually see what happens. There you go. So now you can see I've sped up the time. It says maintenance required in 30 engine hours or 12 days. And that's because I'm running a 6-day season. And what it's going to try and do is make you service your tractors twice a year. So definitely get this mod, because I think this is a real nice feature and a nice add-on. Right, so the next mod I'm going to show you is a mod called Vehicle Info. Just a quick one, this is just a small one, but it's something you've probably seen me using in my videos if you've watched them before. And basically what I'm going to show you is just at the bottom right now by the hood, just to the left of the hood, you'll see a rectangular shaped grey box where it's got information about like trips and the kilometres and out, the amount of kilometres I've done, the total amount of kilometres I've done in this tractor. You can also reset that. Say every time you do field, you can see how many kilometres it takes. Also, it shows you the fuel usage that you have. So as you can see, I'm using 7.2 litres an hour by just turning it on. As I start driving, you'll notice it shows you the temperature, and you'll notice that it shows you the fuel usage. So it's just a nice little feature. I do like it. It adds a lot, to be honest. I kind of got used to it now as well, so I do like using it in pretty much most of my Let's Plays. Because it's a good indication as well. So if you've had the tractor for like 30 hours, just to see actually how many kilometres you've done in it as well. So I do like that. Right, so number 11 on the list is a mod called IndoorCamFirst, and all it basically does is every time you get into a tractor, say if you've just loaded the game up and you get straight into your tractor, the first camera you're going to see, or the first viewpoint, is going to be inside the cab. Instantly does it every time. Obviously, if you change cameras like that and then get out, the next time you get in, it's going to be how it was before. But if you haven't changed the state or anything like that, then it won't do that. But I think the default camera view was always third person, so now it just changes the default camera to inside the cab. Dead simple, but obviously really useful, and it's good if you're doing a roleplay series, and that every time you jump in, you don't have to keep changing it and then saving all your tractor states, so it is IndoorCamFirst. So yeah, nice little feature, dead simple, but obviously makes a difference. Right, so number 12, we'll still stick by these two tractors for this one. So this is another one that's really small, but I like it a lot, and it's basically called Realistic Cab View. So what it does is, as you're sitting in the cab in first person mode, and you want to look over your shoulder, so you've got a trailer behind you, if you just quickly notice now the camera kind of moves to the right. So imagine if you're looking over your shoulder naturally. If you do that naturally, what happens is you put your head over your shoulder, you kind of move a little bit to the left. So what it does, if I do it slowly, you'll just see it, but it kind of just shifts your body over as you would, and you're looking over your shoulder now, not just like your head turns, a 360 on its axis, and it's not realistic really. Let's be honest. If you turned 180 behind your head, you're obviously going to move that a little bit to whatever shoulder you're looking over. So it's just a dead small thing, but obviously again it adds to the realism. Right, so number 13 on my list is a little mod called Manual Attach. Now this mod does make a big difference, and if you're doing a roleplay series, I don't think you could probably do it without this, to be honest. So what it actually does is make sure that when you're reversing with a tractor to attachment that you obviously want to hook up to, you can't just sit in the cab, press the button that you need, and it'll automatically attach, and it'll obviously do all the hydraulics and the PTO just in one button. What this does, it means that you have to get out the tractor and manually attach the hydraulics, the PTO, and the piece of kit itself to the tractor. So again, it's dead realistic, and yeah, I find it that I have to use it in my roleplay series, or without it, it probably wouldn't look as good. So you obviously reverse it up to what you need to do, because we need this mower, we're going to do the alfalfa, and then we're going to attach the piece of kit, and then I'm going to attach the hydraulics, and I'm going to put in the PTO. Again, when the mod description will tell you all the controls, it might be different for you than it is for me. I'm quickly just using an Xbox controller for this, so on the PC, so it's a little bit different than what it would be for keyboard. But that's basically the gist of it. It just makes it a little bit more realistic, because you're now manually handling, obviously, your piece of kit, and you're putting in the PTO, the hydraulics, and attaching the equipment. So again, deadly important to realism, makes a difference, so go check it out. Right, so while I'm quickly still in the alfalfa field, and I've just showed you the manual attach, I'll just quickly show you and tell you about the next one, because I can't really show you much to it. All it basically does is save your position when you exit the game. So this mod's called Save Player Position. Like I said, it pretty much just does what it says. When I save, if I save the game now and exit, I'll return exactly on this spot. Instead of going back to usually when you start up on the vanilla games, you'll go straight to your home or where you rest at, anything like that. It'll kind of just put you back there. Whereas this, I think, you could question, is it realistic mod? But I think it is, because if I save the game and I've been working all night doing a field, I want to return exactly where I was in that game. So I find it is realistic. It might not be something that you're going to show off or anything like that. It's just for you personally when you're starting up the game and shutting it down. But I do find it's useful. So definitely I'm adding it to my list. Right, so the next one that I'm going to talk to you about is a mod that's another one by GlobalCompany. It's another GlobalCompany add-on. So again, you'll need the GlobalCompany mod. And then obviously, just as any other mod, you'll download this one, activate it as well alongside GlobalCompany, and you can use it. So this mod's called Realistic Milking Times. And what it does, it switches the milk that you get from your cows. Instead of it being continuously throughout the whole day, it now has 2 milking times throughout a 24-hour period. So from each day, it'll milk at 6 a.m. and you'll get like a big jump in the milk, and then again you'll milk at night, so at 6 p.m. and again you'll have a jump in the milk. For me, it's realistic. I find it useful just because you don't milk all day long if you're on a dairy farm. What usually happens is exactly what this mod does, which is you milk in the morning and then you sort your cows out and all that kind of stuff, and then you'll milk them again in the evening. That's what pretty much most farmers in the UK do, unless they're milking 3 times a day. It can be different if you've got robots. If you're doing a robot, milking like that, it's obviously different. But most manual milking that you're doing in a parlour, it would be twice a day. So I do like it. Again, it's realistic, something small, something that you're probably not going to see much as you're playing the game. But it means that now I know now that I've got 24,000 litres of milk in that tank. Come 6 p.m, that's going to jump up. I don't know what it is. It really just depends on when my cow's on, because I'm running seasons. So it kind of depends, it really does, on that. But it's good to know that I can come back and check. It's 6 o'clock and I'm going to have some extra milk in the tank. Right, so this next mod is called Real Mud, and everyone probably knows about this. This mod, it is cool. It's definitely something that you can obviously add to your maps yourself. I've just done something here. It's not the best. It's quite crude looking, so it could have been a lot more detail, but I just wanted to throw something in and then throw some mud down on the ground. So what this mod basically does is it kind of adds dirt and mud fill types to the game. So you could obviously do what I've done here and put a little area where you probably think water would collect, so I've made the ground go down a bit, and then you can put mud on the ground, and then when you go over it in a tractor, it obviously looks pretty cool. And it makes it a little bit more difficult. I've got a powerful Massey Ferguson, so I'm not going to struggle at all. But again, it's just something to add to your map to make it unique yourself. So you can put this around the gates where you think a lot of cows are coming in and out. Anything like that you think, maybe a lot of field work you're going in and out, entrances. And if you do get a lot of it piled up, you can put it in trailers and then put even more down than I have on the ground there. Obviously, it can become a struggle, especially if you've got some small equipment and you're trying to get in and out, and you maybe got a fully loaded trailer and you're trying to track through it, and all of a sudden you get stuck. So I do like this feature, and I do think it definitely comes as a realistic mod and enhances the game. Right, so number 17 on the list. Hopefully this video is not going to be too long. I haven't edited it yet. I will put chapters in, just quickly want to say that. So if you want to skip to one that you've seen in the description, or you want to go back, that YouTube feature will be there for you to use, so that hopefully will help a lot. Anyway, the next one is called Real Mower. Now, I do like this. Again, this is another one that I think has definitely improved the gameplay. Traditionally, when I'd say go over something like this and I wanted to, cut the grass and maybe clean it up, what you do, you drive over this bush here and it just go flat and then come straight back up. It'd ping back up, but it wouldn't get rid of it. However, with Real Mower, what it does is it obviously lets you mow the flowers or the bushes or the kind of shrubbery that's on the ground. Not like that hedge, for example, nothing like that, but it would clean up the land itself. So if you've got a messy garden on a map and you want to tidy it up, you can do that now. So I'll quickly just show you what I mean. So as I drive over these now, they are going to disappear. It's going to clean it up, make it look better. I've just hit a bump, so I missed that bit there. And then flowers as well, they're going to disappear. So if you wanted to go up and down here, you could make it a nice patch of area, nice grassland in fact, and then it would just come back as grass, so you could properly mow it down instead of it just being that. So we'll go back down again and I'll show you the difference that it definitely does make. Now, all these mods that I'm showing you today are PC only. And I think there's one at the end that's on console as well. But I'm pretty much guaranteed that most people have got that already. But unfortunately, they are all PC. A lot of these mods do add scripts into the game, some extra scripts, which obviously, unfortunately, can't be on console. Hopefully, next generation consoles in the next game, that could be implemented, but I think a lot of it is just down to the actual either Sony and Microsoft, what they allow. I think Microsoft are a bit more lenient than Sony, but that's just the way it is, unfortunately. So, like I said, a lot of these are just for PC only. But yeah, as you can see, it has made an impact. It's cleaned it up, and if you can imagine, if you do the whole area, it would look better, especially if you want this for a track and you want to put a track in. Obviously, by doing that, I'd delete these out anyway, but it means now that you can mow them down, which is more realistic. Right, so the next two I'm going to show you in one. This is going to be 18 and 19, and it's to do with seeding. So the first one I'm going to talk about is real seeds usage. Now, this is obviously hard for me to show you unless I start seeding. It's going to take a while and all that kind of stuff. So what I'm going to do is just quickly talk to you about what it does. In a gist, basically, this just makes it a bit more realistic to the amount of seeds that are being used depending on the crop type you're planting. I think it just has a standard rate in the vanilla game of Farming Simulator where you apply a certain rate of feeds and it goes down in the seeder itself, and there's no difference between whatever seed type. But that's not true in real life depending on what you're planting. It really just depends on the crop type for how much seeds you need in that ground in a certain area, because some of them take different amount of root space, and you don't want to obviously overpower them and make them like battling it out under the ground to start off with before they start germinating. So you do need to put the right amount of seeds in and the right amount of spacage in between. So this mod tries to tackle that. So quickly, I'll just talk to you like wheat, for example. It delivers 200 kilograms per hectare, whereas grass is only 35 kilograms per hectare. Spelts, 125 kilograms per hectare. Clover, for example, that's 36 kilograms per hectare. So each different crop type has its own seed usage rate, and if you go and download that mod, you can put that straight in there and you will see it as you start using it and playing it. Right, so for number 19, that's called Realistic Seeder. I use this quite a lot. I use it because it's MaizePlus compatible, and also I just think it's something that should have pretty much gone into the standard game, and that's seed types. So if I want to plant barley in the original game, what I'd do is I'd put seeds in the seeder, I'd change the seed type on the menu. Basically, I'd put that I want to plant barley seeds, and then these magic seeds would obviously plant barley, and then instantly I could switch to something else. But obviously that's not realistic. Realistically, what you do is you go and buy that seed type. So with the Realistic Seeder mod, what you can now do is buy that seed type that you want, and with them you can only plant that seed type. So this is a crate of potato seeds, this is a pallet of oilseed radish, canola and barley. So if I just quickly grab this, put it to the side of the seeder, I'll jump in the tractor, I'll press fill rate, and as you can see in the bottom corner on the hood, you can see that barley's going in because I've put barley seeds down. So no longer can I change that now to canola. The only way I can do that is by emptying this seed tank out, putting the barley seeds, obviously storing them away, then getting canola seeds and putting them in instead. And I just think it makes more sense. So if this appeals to you, definitely download it, because I can definitely recommend it as something that adds to the realism. Right, so number 20 on my list. We're getting through now, not many left. This one's called Variable Spray Usage. And pretty much I'm probably guess what it does by the name of it, but it lets you adjust manually what kind of spray rate you're going to put down on the ground. Now this is a bit different if you're using precision farming, which is one of the ones in my list that I will get to. But yeah, if you're using precision farming, you can obviously manually adjust it yourself using precision farming. If you haven't got precision farming, then this is a tool that you can use that I've used before precision farming come out, which allowed me to change the rate that was coming out, obviously the sprayer. I found sometimes that the spray rate was a bit too much and you'd have to go and fill up the tank quite a bit. Now, that could be in real life. I have never sprayed in my life to know that, but I just kind of used to turn it down just a little bit. But also, if you think it should be more, then obviously you can now change it. And the main point of this, to be realistic, is the fact that you can manually adjust the spray rate, which is something you can obviously do in real life. So if I quickly just go into the tractor and then I press the F1 menu, you'll see obviously I've got precision farming installed, but you can see just above the precision farming thing in the F1 menu there, It says current spray rate 250 litres per hectare. Now if I press the K and the M keys on my keyboard, I can adjust that by putting it higher, which would obviously increase the amount of fertiliser, liquid fertiliser that will be coming through, or I can decrease it, which would mean that you'd last longer in your tank, that you can definitely obviously change the spray rate. Right, so number 21 now. This again is just another small little feature, nothing major, but I like it because I do find it realistic. So this one, all it makes you do is sleep at any time. So in the normal vanilla game, you'd come up to your house, you'd try and sleep, and it says, "You're not tired yet." But I say to it, how does it know? Because I've been up all night out in that field mowing. All night. Up until the early hours because I needed to get it mowed. Because the contractors were coming in the day after and they needed to obviously put it in the pit for me. So now I can come up to my sleep trigger. I can say I'm tired. It'll tell me the time, so it's 1:10. It'll ask me now what time I want to wake up, which is a lot easier than what it normally would say, which is how many hours do you want to sleep at? So it might say, how many hours do you want to sleep at? You'd say 8 hours. And now you can just say, I fancy waking up at 3, 4. I can even have a nap. I can even have a nap for 50 minutes. There you go. Got a nap for 50 minutes. I feel refreshed. So again, it's just a dead simple mod, but I like it. I find it's more realistic, and it means that you choose when you go to sleep. And if you're farming, a lot of work can happen at night, so you might be tired and need a little bit of rest in the day. Right, so these last 4 are massive game changers for me. I've had to include them in. A lot of people will actually have these already, but I've had to include them in my list of 25 just because they've changed the game so much since the vanilla version, and they've added a lot of realism. So like I said, you're probably all using this anyway, but if you're not and you've just started playing and you're a new player to PC and you don't know what mods to get, then these 4 are probably at the top of your list for realism. So the first one's called the Manure System, and what it does is it makes the pumping of slurry, or actually also liquid fertilizer as well, just realistic. You can now obviously manually attach hoses to your slurry tank or slurry pit. Any way you're storing the slurry, like this is my little slurry pit. It's got quite a lot in, to be honest. A lot of the tankers now are all Manure System compatible, because of the fact that it's been out a while, and also everyone wants to use it. You pretty much, if you use this and then don't in your next gameplay, it's just not going to be as good. So obviously what you do is you pick it up, you attach it to your connection. Some of the ones have the actual valves at the top that you have to open and close. This one hasn't got that on, this tanker, so it doesn't matter. You then go into your tractor, turn your engine on, activate your pump, and what you'll notice is it starts pumping up. And then you can see the liquid going up, and it's just a lot better than driving over a trigger, telling it to fill up. You're actually obviously manually doing it now. You're turning the pump on yourself. You're obviously attaching the hose and, looking after it all, even the valves and everything. And you can also bypass into other slurry holding pit. And also you can buy little hoses from IBCs to your sprayers. So yeah, it's definitely a big change to the gameplay. A lot of people are using it. You'll see it in a lot of videos on YouTube and everyone. I think most gamers on PC are obviously using this because it makes a massive difference. Right, so the next one's called Precision Farming. You probably all know about this. This has been made by Giant Software themselves, but it's a free DLC, so it's a free mod that you can use in your game. And what it does is add a lot more realism and a lot more detail to the soil work and the fertilizing, anything about the groundwork itself and when you're planting crops. It's definitely changed the game, and I do recommend this one for everyone. If you can learn how to use the system itself, the fact that you now got to watch the pH of your soil, obviously your nitrogen levels on your fertilizing, you do have to watch them. Also the different crop types, which I have been talking about recently in my challenging playthrough. The different crop types have required amount of fertilizer for them, so you can go over and under, and you need to keep a track of that. It really just depends on what type of crop you're growing. Also the fact that you've got yield percentages now, obviously it tells you by the type of soil that you're planting on. So you could have loam. These are the soil types. So you've got loamy sand, sandy loam, silty clay. So yeah, also it's really interesting because obviously it gives you a lot more feedback to the land as well. So you can see on the left hand side there, field 46 for me. If I go to total values, you can see that I've taken 10 soil samples, which is something that you have to do now. You have to take samples of your soil. Obviously in game you can use different things. Some mods have come out where they've got these soil sensors, crop sensor it's called, that you can put on the front of the tractor, which as you're going through the field will sense the soil itself, and in the long run it'll probably save you a lot of money. As you can see as well, it says lime, so 766 pounds worth of lime I used to spread onto this field. but it also tells you mineral fertilizer, liquid fertilizer, manure, slurry, the amount of seeds, the cost of it. So I used 798 litres of seeds at a cost of £718. So it's a lot more detailed. Like I said, it's got maintenance costs, fuel costs if you're using the AI helper or a contractor, whatever you want to call it. It tells you the cost in there, and then eventually it'll tell you the total yield you got and the profit you're going to make from that. So I do like it a lot. I really do. It does obviously have an impact on the soil type you're using. I've found if you're using loam, if a field's got loam in, then you're going to have a better yield percentage. And as you can see with the color coded chart, which is pretty simple to read, it'll tell you exactly what kind of potential yield you're going to get. So yeah, again, this is a massive game changer. It's pretty recent as well. It's not that old, but it does add a lot of detail to the game. So definitely recommend using this if you want a realistic playthrough. Right, so number 24 is one that I use pretty much in all of my Let's Plays now. I don't use it on my roleplay just because the map I use hasn't got it in. But every map I play now, I look for this, which is MaizePlus. MaizePlus originally started as a one-off mod that just added maize to the map. So you could basically bale maize off, put it into pits, ferment it, and it was maize silage. So it wasn't chaff, it was maize silage. It then obviously changed that and adapted over time. And it became like CCM, so corn cob mix and whole crop silage and all these different feed types. And it also added a lot more crop into the game. It then came out with a horse extension version that has to be implemented into maps now. So it's not a mod that you can just put on top. It's actually implemented into maps. But that added a lot more detail to crop destruction. And it also added a lot to the drying of the grass. So when you were tedding it, a lot of detail. Whole crop silage you could bale up now as well into bales, so you can have bales of whole crop silage, maize silage and grass silage, and I'll quickly just show you that because I've actually got some. But the main thing for me is it obviously adds a lot to the game. There's so much more gameplay features now because of MaizePlus that wasn't there before, that it's just a no-brainer for me. And as soon as you start using it and get used to it, you can't go back because you think to yourself, well, I could have done this and I could have done that, and now that I've gone to a map without MaizePlus, I can't do them features. So as you can see, these are just normal standard grass silage. It has changed the name to grass fermented. This is your maize silage, and then I've got some whole crop silage. But there's so many things like alfalfa. If I go into this, you'll probably see it better. All these now are part of MaizePlus: horse grass, field grass, pasture grass, clover. There's so many different things added. Carrots, onions, I think all these crop types there, rye, millet, spelt, they're all part of the MaizePlus horse extension. And like I said, for me, the main feature is the way that you now feed your animals. So if I just quickly open up the seasons menu, so if I just go to the animal tab, you'll see what I mean, which is now there's 4 different categories of feed and they each go down individually, whereas in normal seasons, what would happen is it would take from the top menu. So you'd put TMR in, and that'd be the best feed type you could mix. You could feed them, and then it'd take all the TMR and leave the other 3 just sitting there. So now you have to feed them either grass fermented or clover fermented with a mixture or some hay, and then some fresh grass, or it says fresh maize or anything like that. And then you've got your concentrate, which is going to be your sugar beet or your carrot. But obviously what you can do to feed 3 of them categories is mix it now and make TMR, but that's changed as well. So by using MaizePlus, as you can see in the bottom now, there's a little bar that pops up when you need a feed mixer. So it shows you the ratios you need to add for maize silage. That's got some TMR in that I've mixed myself by using maize silage, whole crop silage, straw, grass fermented, and I also put soybeans in. I actually put canola in because you can use canola, barley or soybeans in that category. And then for sugar beet, you can either use them or potatoes. So it just adds so much new game features whilst playing Farming Simulator that I don't think you can go back. But it is one of them things that I can understand some people want to play it, some people don't. But for me, it's a must now. It's something that I couldn't go without on the game. Right, so before I end the video, I'm just going to tell you the last one. Now, the last mod that's changed the game completely, in my opinion, and added a lot of realism is obviously seasons. I think without seasons, the game wouldn't be anywhere near as positive or anywhere near as fun as it is now. And I think a lot of games, a lot of the new mods coming out work alongside seasons and need seasons just because of the way that it changed the game for me. The fact that you can now have the season types, you've got your summer, your spring, your autumn, and your winter. You've got snow. The crops all grow differently. Yeah, it just everything for me, the way the maps look when you're in autumn compared to when you're in summer, it just changed completely, and it's obviously realistic. So I think that would be the top realistic mod that you can have. Without seasons, you're pretty much not playing a realistic playthrough, let's be honest. Because if you're harvesting barley or wheat in -5 degrees temperatures, then you know you're not playing the game realistically. Right, so hopefully this video has been really helpful. Hopefully you've found at least a few that you want to try out yourself, or that you didn't know about and that you might have missed. And yeah, if you have, please give the video a thumbs up. Also, if you think there's anything that I've missed, or there's anything that you think's added to the game and enhanced the realism, put it in the comments section below and I'll have a look myself. And also you might help someone else out by doing that. So I'm going to leave the video there. Thanks for watching. See you next time.